Good morning or good afternoon, dear students. Today, we begin Chapter 4 of our Insert History textbook, Forest Society and Colonialism. In this chapter, we will walk into the forests and explore how colonial rule changed the lives of forest communities, their forest policies, and even the ecological landscapes. Let's see how forest societies functioned before colonialism and how they were transformed under colonial rule. Before we jump into details, here's a quick roadmap of the chapter. We begin by asking, why did forests begin to disappear? Then we'll see how the British and even other colonial powers created new forest policies and promoted commercial forestry. We'll study how these changes impacted different groups like cultivators, pastoralists, and tribal communities. We'll also discuss forest rebellions and finally take a comparative look at Java under Dutch rule. At the end, we'll compare what stayed the same and what changed over time. Let's first understand what forests meant to local communities before colonial interventions. Forests were like commons, shared spaces that everyone used. People gathered firewood, fodder, timber, and fruits. They practiced shifting cultivation, also known as slash and burn. They hunted, grazed animals, and gathered forest produce. The forest was part of their everyday lives, deeply tied to their customs and seasonal rhythms. There was balance, guided by local knowledge, traditional rites, and respect for nature's cycles. Under colonial rule, the demand for wood and land increased enormously. There was a push to bring more land under agriculture, the idea that land had to be improved. At the same time, railways and ships needed timber for sleepers, masts, and hulls. Cities and industries were expanding. They needed building materials, and plantations, tea, coffee, and rubber required huge forest clearings. So deforestation wasn't random. It was built into the economic needs of colonial rule. To regulate and profit from forest resources, the British established forest departments and promoted scientific forestry. They introduced controlled felling, planting, and regeneration. A German expert, Dietrich Brandis, became the first Inspector General of Forests in India. Forests were mapped, trees classified, and zones created for exploitation and conservation. Then came the Forest Acts, which enforced strict state control. Forests were divided into reserved, protected, and village forests, each with different levels of access and restriction. These policies had harsh effects on local people. Shifting cultivators were banned or forced to move. Pastoralists lost their grazing routes. Access to minor forest produce and hunting was restricted or taxed. Forest guards were given power to fine and punish. Many people were forced into labor or accused of forest theft. Over time, resentment grew and tension spread through the forest communities. While many suffered, some new jobs also appeared. Locals became forest guards, laborers on plantations, or workers in the timber trade. Transport networks, roads, and railways were developed to move forest goods to markets. but most profits went to colonial companies and officials, while local labor remained underpaid and exploited. Not surprisingly, forest people began to resist. In Bastar, for example, communities rose against colonial authorities. Their anger came from losing traditional rights, being forced into labor, and facing punishments under forest laws. People feared eviction, hunger, and loss of their way of life. Such rebellions were part of a larger pattern of forest resistance across India. To see a broader picture, let's look at Java under Dutch colonial rule. There too, forests were exploited. Woodcutters faced harsh working conditions. The Dutch introduced scientific forestry and strict controls. A local leader named Samin challenged these policies peacefully. His movement became famous for its calm defiance. Wars and politics later worsened deforestation. So, the story of forest loss was not just Indian, it was global. In summary, colonialism brought large scale control and commercialization of forests. Restrictive laws replaced local customs. Yet one thing continued: people's dependence on forests and their resistance to losing them. The long-term effects were serious: ecological damage, loss of biodiversity, and the breaking of traditional livelihoods. Even today, these lessons matter as we think about forest conservation and the rights of forest communities. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed our journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel for more videos.